Hey guys, welcome to Cozy Talks Live. I do apologize that rundown went a little bit longer than I expected. All right, we are going to get started tonight. I was literally getting questions in until the last minute, and I want to make sure I questions just printed everything out. Okay, here we are. All right, guys, for those of you watching the replay, please hit replay in the comments section. I do like to go back and see who's there. I know we've got a lot of folks listening in from different time zones, chiming in the morning after sometimes. And then also I like to pick up any questions that perhaps I missed on this show. So let's get started with the good stuff. Let me say hello to the folks who are here. We got Chuck coming in from Wyoming and is there with his iced tea. I'm so glad to see you, Chuck. Glad you can make it this evening. We got Robert, who sent in a really cool picture that we're going to be sharing a little bit later on from Georgia with coffee in his cup. We got Brian Bustelo with his Bustelo in his cup this evening. Brian, cheers. It's not Bustelo, but it's decaf because I'm turning into a featherweight here. I cannot have Bustelo at this time of evening. Dean! Oh my goodness, Dean Glassman from Hollywood is listening in. I am so glad you're here, Pastor Bedtime Dean. I love it. I love it. And I'm glad you're here this evening. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Kim, that is a great question. She's asking, what is a good socket for flexibility? I have issues with swelling and shrinking due to lack of lymph nodes from cancer removal. I've been an amputee for 15 years now, but my limb is changing again. Kim, we're going to get to your question in just a moment. We got, there's Mary Ann. There's my double AK gal from the Dakotas. So we've got electrolyte in her drinks this evening. We've got Scott, who is absolutely rocking it with his progress. Scott, I can't tell you, first of all, how much I enjoy you sending me messages about your progress. And guys, this goes for all of you. Any of you who have sent me questions about something about your recovery process with amputation or anything, and I always answer. And at the end of my emails, I always say, please keep me posted. And I truly, truly appreciate those of you who do keep me posted on your progress, whether good or bad or whatever. So I got to give Scott major shout out. He is just so determined and so persistent with his progress. And I'm so proud of him. We've got Earl coming in from California. Earl, I got a question for you tonight. So you stick around for me, okay? We got Linda from Ohio. We've got Harsh coming in there from Richmond. We got Pastor David's in the house. All right. Let's see. Marty in from Texas with his iced tea. And we've got my Canadian there, Tom McIntyre. It's good to see you. All right. Let's see what's going on over here on Instagram. Ooh, guys, I got fancy again. So apparently I figured out how to stream to TikTok. I have finally decided to get out of the dinosaur age. I have been asked by sponsors, my kids, everybody to finally start posting to my TikTok channel. I've been fighting it for the past 7 years, but got to start, right? So anyways, guys, if any of you do happen to have a TikTok account, can you please look me up and see if you are watching me, if you're able to see me from there? I didn't want to officially announce it just in case it didn't work, because sometimes the streaming software I use can be a little touchy. But anyways, if anybody has a TikTok account, channel thingy, please look me up under Cozy Talks and just, can you send me a thumbs up from there and let me know if you're able to see me or not? I'm just, something new I'm trying out. Hey there, Jerry Ann from Arizona, drinking coffee with brown sugar and vanilla. And we've got Howard. I love the Freedom Thrifter handle. That's really cool. Coming in from the Ohio heat as well. All right, guys. So for those of you who are joining me first time for this evening, let me introduce myself. My name is Cozy Belloso. I'm a physical therapist here in very hot, very sticky Tampa, Florida. It is a beast. It is a beast. It is 8:30 at night out here, and it is still reading 90 degrees. And I won't even tell you about the humidity. So we're not doing the live show from the porch this evening. I've been a PT now for a little over 23 years, and my passion is working and serving the amputee and limb loss community. Guys, I got a lot of questions. I'm real happy because I had to shrink the font to be able to fit it all on one page. So that always makes me happy. First off, we got Pamela coming in from upstate. Hey there, Pamela. Good to see you. All right, guys. For those of you who are new to the show, this show is for the amputee community. So that includes my amputees, their clinicians, their caregivers, and their family members. And this show is to help inform, educate, and empower you as you go through the recovery process, or if you are helping someone go through their recovery process. So please don't be shy. Post your questions in the comments section. I'll be telling you various things throughout the evening as to how you can also contact me off the show if you would prefer to ask questions off the show as well. So let's get started. First of all, I'm going to give a shout out here to Mr. Robert. He sent me this great picture and he gave me permission to share it of his 4th of July. And that lovely blue character sitting with him is Bubbles, this puppet, which I think is the coolest thing. And he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt. I just noticed that right now. So I got to meet Robert at the last Amputee Coalition National Conference in Orlando last year. And I also had the chance to meet Bubbles. So Robert, thank you for sending me that picture and for allowing me to share that little piece of joy right there this evening. All right, we got Michelle coming in from Paw Paw, Michigan. I love it. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and get started with some of these questions. There was one here. Okay, here's a really good one. Someone texted me the question through the texting service asking, what are the best exercises for our sound leg to support the knee? This is obviously a nice, juicy question for me as a physical therapist. So first of all, I'm going to give you something that you can do right now. Let me go to my fancy QR codes because I'm getting all fancy now with my QR codes. And hopefully it's in here. Okay, here we go. All right, guys, that QR code is a link to my amputee exercise program. It's 150 video exercises for above the knee and below the knee amputees, head to toe fitness. There are 2 books that go along with it. Many of you have these books. These are exercises that take you from day 1, right after amputation, and all the way through all the stages of recovery through getting back to sports. I use this program on my amputee runners. I'm a runner, and even though I'm not an amputee, I use the exercises from this book. I was doing that this morning. So everybody from beginner to intermediate and advanced. In terms of exercises for the sound limb, this is something that is often overlooked. And it is very common that I have a patient come in that they say, yes, I've been doing exercises. Great. That's wonderful. And then when I do my manual muscle testing techniques to test the different muscle groups in their legs, their residual limb is sometimes stronger than their sound limb, specifically the glute muscle. Why? Because they've been focused on the residual limb and they forget that the sound limb also needs to get worked on. And that's for several reasons. The most obvious one is the sound limb is now going to take on more of the stress and the pressure with walking because the residual limb is still getting used to using a prosthesis. And unfortunately, it may never reach 50-50. It may in some cases, but it's very hard. So throughout the rest of your life, your sound limb is always going to take a little bit more of that pressure. Okay. And that's something that we constantly want to work on. So in terms of the sound limb, we want to protect those hips. We want to protect the knee. We want to protect the ankle. We want to protect that sound limb. Thank you, guys. I see some of you who are scanning that code now, and I do appreciate it. So the same exercises you do for your residual limb, you do for your sound limb. And I just happen to have it open up right here. So for example, right here, I have an example. Hopefully you guys can see it. I'm trying to get in front of my microphone. Basic bridges without the prosthesis. So in this particular one, this is obviously my above the knee book. You can see the amputee demonstrating how to do bridges, and I have her on a foam roll. That's just one of the ways that you can do this exercise. So you do the same thing with your sound limb. It takes twice as long, and I think that's sometimes why people kind of skimp out on that exercise. So my strategy for my patients is, instead of giving my patients, 5 to 10 exercises to do when they go home, I may only give them 3, maybe 4 exercises. And the reason is because I want them to have the time to do it on their residual limb and their sound limb. Plus, it's kind of a known fact that people are going to be more consistent when they can just focus on certain exercises and being consistent with those exercises. Another thing I want to say, guys, about doing exercises is it's not about being fancy. It's not about being like super creative with all these amazing pulleys and therabands and all these funny things that you see online about people doing these exercises. The bread and butter exercises, I call them the foundational exercises, are incredibly effective. And they're effective for people starting in the beginning and then all the way through athletic stages. And if you take my book, I like using the book as an example, but if you also look at the videos, that's how I've designed this program. So taking, for example, the bridge. Okay. I show you how to do it when you are at level phase one, the beginning stages. I show you how to modify it as you get stronger through phases 2 and phase 3. Okay. And I even show you how you can modify it with one leg, two legs, with the prosthesis, without the prosthesis, because everyone's just a little bit different on what they can do. Okay. So there's a lot of things that you can do there. In terms of specifically strengthening for your knee, especially your sound knee, to keep it nice and stable, I really like whole body exercises. Okay. So I love squats, lunges. Okay. Hip hinges. All right. Anything that's really incorporating the glutes, the quads, and the hamstrings, everything to work together. Yes. Capiche? Yeah, we're starting off. We're starting off with a bang from the horse's gate there with that one. Let's see. Whoops. Sorry, guys. I'm pressing way too many buttons. Hey there, Victor. Good to see you. I'm glad that you're there. We got Ben Gregory coming in from Texas. Marty says, so no hopping? No. Oh my gosh. Whenever I see an amputee hopping, it just kind of like nails on a chalkboard for me. Marty, you just like picked open a soapbox, buddy. I don't know if you really wanted to do that one. So no, all joking aside, guys, I know it happens. I'm not dumb. I know that like a lot of my amputees, especially at night, and especially my younger amputees, when they want to use the bathroom and they don't have to put their leg on, they don't want to have to go for the crutches, they'll hop to get to the bathroom. I get it. And I know it happens. But obviously, as the responsible licensed PT, I have to say, obviously, that fall risk. Okay. I've seen some people take some really nasty falls, especially in the middle of the night when they do that. And then the other side of it is it's really just jarring to your joints. And again, you've got to protect that sound limb, because if that sound limb goes, then, and I've seen that happen. I've seen it happen where people, they just get chronic overuse injuries on their sound limb to the point where their amputated side becomes the stronger side. Okay. So yes, I have to like shake my finger and kind of, read you the lecture on that. So sorry, Marty. Probably didn't think you were opening a Pandora's box with that one. Hey there, Bill. Good to see you. Do I offer one-on-one live feed? Okay, that's an interesting question. So I've toyed with this idea, and it's kind of on my to-do list to explore this. And actually, if you guys don't mind if I run a quick informal poll on you tonight, I would love to hear from you on this one. Sorry, guys, I'm just checking back with my Instagram channel, make sure I don't miss anything there. By the way, was anybody ever able to connect through the TikTok? Anybody seeing me through there? So here's the thing. And actually, this was a question that came in this week as well, Bill. So we're going to do that question now. After I sip my coffee. Oh, that tastes so good. Okay. So last week on Instagram, I was a guest on another show through Jackie. Jackie is a physical therapist over in Arizona. Lovely lady. She works with amputees, and she has a program online, a coaching program online. So I guess somebody saw the show. And guys, I'd encourage you to go and watch that show. She's under jackie.dpt is her Instagram handle. And the person texted me and said, I saw the show. What are your thoughts on telehealth physical therapy? And this is kind of in accordance with Bill's question here about whether or not I do one-on-one over live streaming for exercises. So here's the story behind all of that. Okay. Physical therapists, we are not allowed to do telehealth across state lines. Okay. So I am based in Florida. My license is in Florida. So I can only telehealth patients within Florida. So if I have a patient or somebody outside of Florida that wants to work with me on a telehealth physical therapy basis, it cannot be done. Okay. I know that this is not the same necessarily for doctors and other disciplines, but for physical therapy, it's just not allowed, right? Within state lines, it is allowed. Does that make sense? No, I don't feel like it makes sense. I feel like if you're going to allow physical therapy within state lines, then it should be allowed outside of state lines as well. But the reasoning behind it is, since we hold our licenses within each state, then that is technically where we are licensed to practice, right? So that's the legal side of physical therapy telehealth. Here is the practical side. And guys, this is my professional and personal opinion. I know I'm going to be ruffling a lot of feathers when I say this because I have colleagues that do have telehealth practices, and that is their business. Oh, Scott, thank you. So I am on TikTok and it's working good. Awesome. Okay. So I don't believe in physical therapy telehealth. Okay. Now, before you guys go, "Oh, wait a second, she was just on a show with somebody who has an online presence." Okay. Let me clarify. Jackie does not have a physical therapy practice online. She offers amputee and fitness coaching. That is different. Okay. That is different. And I do want to make that distinction. And I want you guys to understand that distinction because there are PTs out there that are offering a lot of online programs. So you need to understand the difference. If you see a physical therapist online that's saying, "I offer telehealth physical therapy across a state line," no, that's a big no no. Big no no. What you may see is a lot of physical therapists, and obviously not just amputee specialists. You're going to see running specialist PTs, orthopedic PTs, lots and lots of PTs that they offer consultation programs. They may offer coaching programs. They may offer fitness programs. So it is a subtle difference, but it is there. Okay. With regards to me personally, what I do with my license, I don't feel like I can do physical therapy on telehealth, even within my state lines. It's something I had to consider years ago when I opened up my practice, and certainly during the COVID time where everything was shut down. But the answer for me is no. For me, when I have a patient in my clinic, and those of you who have been my patients, feel free to chime in if you want. My hands are on the patients the whole time. My hands are on the patient the whole time. Even when they're doing the simplest of exercises, I am sitting there next to my patient, constantly correcting their form, counting, doing everything that needs to be done. So they're not wasting their time. They're not wasting a single repetition. And then for the gait training side of it, same thing, guys. My hands are on the patient facilitating the movement. Otherwise, if my hands are not on the patient and I'm just talking to my patient and telling them how to do exercises, then I'm just a glorified personal trainer. And again, there are physical therapists that offer these kind of programs where they are, in fact, kind of acting like a personal trainer. They just happen to also have a physical therapy license. Do I think there's anything wrong with that? No, I think it's a fantastic thing. I think it's awesome that folks like Jackie have an online fitness option for amputees. Okay. But she's not calling it physical therapy, and that's for a reason. Okay. Physical therapy goes much deeper than just teaching a person how to do exercise, guys. It also involves assessing and diagnosing issues with the musculoskeletal system. I'm sorry, you can't do that over telehealth. And again, if there's any of my PT colleagues listening and they're getting their feathers ruffled over this, go ahead, come for me. Okay. I've had plenty of years experience in this field. And again, even for folks who do general orthopedic physical therapy, treating back pain, treating knee pain, joint pain, hip pain, there comes a limit. There comes a limit. At some point, you got to put your hands on a patient to be able to assess what is going on. Okay, guys, I've had my own physical therapy when I do something stupid when I'm running and I hurt myself. And I have my own physical therapist. She's also a private pay physical therapist, and she comes to see me for a full hour. And man, I feel like a pretzel when she's done with me in a good way. Okay, but her hands are on me the whole time. And she's not doing gait training with me. She's doing lots of other strategies and techniques. Okay, so again, anybody who is doing like they're claiming to do physical therapy telehealth, I'm automatically questioning the quality of what they're doing. Okay. For me, it's not physical therapy. It's fitness. It's, fitness training is what you're doing. Okay. And can that be done telehealth? Yeah, probably to a certain extent. Me, I prefer in person. That's just my personal preference. But I am very glad to see that there are folks like Jackie who are providing this resource for amputees. So to answer your question, Bill, is the exercise program considered telehealth? No. Okay. And when you go to my website for the Strong Body website, it is not listed as a physical therapy program. It is a fitness program. Okay. So again, when you purchase that program, it's like you're purchasing any fitness. There's, I mean, hundreds of thousands of fitness programs that people have online that you can purchase nowadays. Mine just happens to be, I think, from everything I've seen, the only one adapted for amputees. Okay, but it is a fitness program. And when you subscribe to my fitness program, in the paperwork that you sign, the consent and everything that you sign in there, I tell you the best thing you need to do is to go see a physical therapist to help you choose how to do the exercises in this program. Okay. As a physical therapist, we prescribe exercises. And that might sound like a little silly, like, really prescribing exercises? It's not like it's narcotics or anything. It's like, well, no, it's not narcotics, but we're still prescribing exercises based on our assessment of the musculoskeletal system. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. So here we go. I know, like, this is a huge, like, soapbox for me. So yeah, so guys, highly encourage you, go see Jackie's stuff online. I think it's, like I said, I think it's wonderful that she is providing this resource. Oh, Jerry Ann, thank you guys. And thank you. So guys, for those of you who just joined me now, I just started streaming to TikTok this evening. Woohoo! And as you can see, if you've seen my TikTok channel, there's nothing on there. I just grabbed it to reserve the name Cozy Talks. If you happen to have a TikTok account, I'd appreciate it if you would follow me and we can start getting that channel going as well. Let's see what else we got. What else we got? What else we got? Let's see. So Bill, that is an excellent question. I'm glad that you asked it. What I have toyed with the idea, and again, this is where I would love all of your input right now on this with a yes or a no. I have toyed with the idea of opening an online consultation service. So basically over the past, obviously I have 30 years of working in healthcare, 23 of which are as a physical therapist. And then the past 7 years of doing this show, I've formed so many amazing relationships in the O&P industry with different prosthetic companies, with different surgeons, with different prosthetists, just wonderful, wonderful community I've been able to connect with. And because of that, I'm able to connect other people and just kind of help consult. So I have toyed with the idea of opening a consultation service where basically you would just book an appointment with me and have 15, 20, 30 minutes of one-on-one time with me to ask me all of questions that pertain to you, just you, not sharing me with, 40 of your other closest friends here on the live show. So obviously it wouldn't be a physical therapy treatment, but it's using all the knowledge that I've had over the past 2.5 decades to share with you and help you out as I can. So if you guys think that you're like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, or like, no, be honest with me, guys, because I don't want to go through all that trouble of creating that if people don't see a need for it. So feel free to just put yes or no, like, yes, you think the consultation thing would be a great idea and you think that's something you would use, or not really. And it won't hurt my feelings if you guys say no. Robert says, I would love the idea. However, you have a family, we can't take all your time. No, and I appreciate that, Robert. And again, guys, when I created that Strong Body program, and yeah, I'm going to put it up there again because we're talking about it a lot. So just in case you didn't get a chance to scan the QR code, there it is right there. COVID is what lit the fire under my bottom to put this program together. It took me 2 years between filming all the videos, between writing all the content, publishing, editing. Believe me, it was a labor of love. And it took 2 years to produce and finally launch this, but it was basically in response to what you all kept asking. So many of you were asking me for exercises for videos. And again, I can't be there to walk you through these exercises, but at the very least, I could give you something with this program. And those of you who do have physical therapy, access to physical therapy, you can take this program with you to your PT sessions. In fact, I would highly encourage you to do so. There are so many PTs out there that don't have the experience of working with amputees, but they want to help you. And if they see a book like this is very similar to books that we have in our reference libraries. Books, because I have books and I like having books, but books or videos that physical therapists have in their reference libraries to help with their patients. So if you bring this to your PT appointment, your PT is going to be very happy that you did so. So lots of applications for this program. Okay. So Chuck saw me on TikTok. Thank you. Howard also saw me on TikTok. Marty said she's awesome. Yeah, Jackie's wonderful, wonderful, lovely individual. Hey there, Lou. No reciprocity. Marty, what are you referring to? Bill says, does she follow your exercise program? No, but it is something I am starting to do. So I have kind of one of the cool things, and I can share this with you guys right now. I've been reaching out to some physical therapy clinics with folks that I know, and I've been offering them the ability to purchase my program to provide their patients. So I have one clinic that is looking very closely at the program to sign on, and I'm really excited about that, guys. You know, there's 6.5 million amputees in the United States, actually more, because that particular number does not include our veterans and our Medicaid patients. So you know, anybody who's an amputee or works with an amputee, I feel should have access to this program. So I am throwing my little pebbles in the pond to try to see how I can make that happen. All right, let's see. Hey there, John C. Good to see you. All right, let's see. Robert says coaching is important to focus on an individual activity, running, biking, martial arts, etc. PTs are overall per individual and their special needs. Yeah, and guys, like again, I have nothing against a physical therapist who has an online program and is doing online coaching and fitness program. I have nothing against that. Again, me personally, I don't have a personal trainer or a running coach. I have a physical therapist, okay, who happens to work with athletes. So, for all intents and purposes, she functions not only as my physical therapist, but she functions as my personal trainer and my running coach. That's who I want to have. I mean, again, nothing against personal trainers, but I'd rather have someone who has physical therapy education under their belt teaching me how to run and assessing me from head to toe to help me prevent my injuries, especially since I'm kind of turning into a dinosaur and I've had 4 kids and cancer and all these kind of things. So I like that. So again, guys, I'm not discouraging you. I'm just telling you, be aware and understand the difference, right? Ask those questions. We got John C coming in from San Diego. Oh, guys. Okay. Yes. So my folks from California, we had John and I think Earl was on as well. Earl, I hope you're still on board. Okay. I have someone who is in the Los Angeles area who needs a physical therapist. Obviously, the best would be somebody who has amputee experience. But if not, if you have a physical therapist that you know that is willing to learn or wants to work with an amputee, please, 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 please either send me a message to my email. I'm going to put it up right now. Or text me. If you're on my texting service, and I'm putting all this information up here now so you guys can, okay, there. Okay. Please send me that information or just post it right there. You know, there's not a lot of us in the United States. If I had to take a wild stab, I would say there's maybe 200 therapists in the United States who will boldly claim that they are amputee specialists, and 200 therapists for 6.5 plus million amputees ain't enough. Ain't enough. You can do that math, right? So guys, whenever I have the chance to learn or direct someone to a physical therapist that either is trained or is willing to learn, and I really rely upon you guys to help me out with that as well. So again, if you're in, and even forget about just LA, just give me the name of a physical therapist in California that works with amputees so that I can give this person this information. So yeah. One of these nights, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask all of you just to list by your town or your state who you go to for physical therapy. And I just need to start creating a directory of my own because Amputee Coalition doesn't have a directory. Nobody has a directory of physical therapists around the United States who treat amputees. So we need to make that happen. Let's see. Hey, we got Alex coming in from Lake Norman. Bill says yes. Harsh says yes. Bill says yes. Chuck would like the consultation program. Scott says yes, especially when I first became the amputee. Jerry Ann says love the book. Oh, thank you guys. Let's see. Earl says, yeah, I think it would be a good chance to, like you say, talk one-on-one about your own situation as they are all different. Yes. Amy says yes. Ryan says, oh, hi, Amy. Oh, Marty was referring to reciprocity as far as my license being valid in other states like nurses and doctors. No. The only exception I can think of, Marty, is if you are a military, if you are in the military or you are your spouse is in the military and you move from state to state. I don't know if there's a special clause for them. That would be interesting to look up. Or perhaps when they move to a new state, maybe they get their license expedited. I don't know. Actually, I'm thinking I wish Paul were on board tonight because he could answer that question for us. And then in terms of, there are some physical therapists who are traveling physical therapists. So they get contracts to go for a month and work in another state, or 2 weeks or things like that. So I'm sure there's a special clause for them. But in general, no. Where you hold your license is where you hold your license, and that's it. I'm actually not even sure. I've never had to find this out. I'm not even sure if I would be allowed to have a license in 2 different states at the same time. I'm not even sure. If there's any PTs on board, by the way, that want to chime in on this one, I'd love to hear from you. Scott says, my new PT was very interested, so I'm taking the book to her next week. She's not very amputee experienced. And guys, again, and this is for any clinicians also listening to this. If you are a licensed physical therapist, right? You've already been through school, you've sat for your board exams, and you've taken you have a license in your hand. All you would have to do is open this book, and you would be able to start putting a basic plan of care together for your patient. Okay. It doesn't have everything that you need for treating an amputee, but this book would certainly be able to get you started. And obviously the videos online can really help with that as well. And then I also have a lot of videos on YouTube that explain a lot of the other things like phantom limb pain, limb volume management, things like that. So again, this is something that I tell physical therapists that sometimes they're like, hey, I'm nervous. I've never treated an amputee before. And I tell them, you know what, with the knowledge that you already have as a physical therapist, you can perform an assessment, and then you can start putting together a basic plan of care with this book. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. Hey there, Pat. He says, love the Above the Knee Strong Body book. Very practical and helpful in physical therapy program for an amputee. Thank you, Pat. I appreciate that. John C says, yes, I have an amputee friend in Thousand Oaks. I'll ask her and get back to you. Awesome. Earl says that would be, north of LA. Yes, John, thank you. Thank you. Earl says, I'm in Sacramento and still can't find a qualified PT to work, but Kingsley from West Point PT at UC Davis. Guys, can I please, John and Earl, can you please email me this information? I would greatly appreciate it very much. Let's see. Okay. So yeah, please email me that. Okay, guys, I need to start getting back to these questions that people sent in this week. Okay. So this question came in from Cindy, and she asks, I need help walking and balance. I want to graduate to a cane. Okay. And this is an interesting question because even just today, guys, I was speaking with an amputee today that I just met. Lovely person. And they were talking to me about how when they went to physical therapy, they didn't have a good experience. The physical therapist, it was obvious to her that she did not have a lot of experience. And this person was incredibly active prior to their amputation. It was a second amputation. It was a revision. And they were running and they were incredibly active, young. And the physical therapist really didn't seem to know how to push them hard enough. And that's another thing I find a lot among PTs who do not have a lot of experience working with amputees, right? You see someone who perhaps, even the young ones, but someone who's, a little older, someone in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, coming in with an amputation, and, you automatically want to put them on a walker or a cane at best. And it's it's a little intimidating, right? To think about how can you progress this person to walking potentially independently. Okay. There's a lot of factors, guys, that go into progressing from a cane to walking independently, or even from a walker to a cane. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to get rid of this thing. Okay. But one of the many things that I look at is I'm looking at the strength, right? Specifically the glute and pelvic strength. This is where you have the stability in your pelvis. This is where you have the power that's going to help power your gait. So strength, range of motion and tightness. I find tightness in all of my patients, amputees, non-amputees, runners, people who are sedentary. Tightness plays a big role, okay? The ability to move your joint through all the degrees of range of motion becomes especially important when you are an amputee. And a lot of times these things kind of fall through the cracks, right? The prosthetist isn't going to catch it. The doctor's not going to catch it. This is where the physical therapist needs to get in there and assess the range of motion, okay? The other thing is your ability to process proprioception, your ability to know where your foot is in space. And many times, especially amputees who have been walking around a lot with a walker for several months to years, they don't realize that their proprioception has been impaired. Okay. They don't realize until I tell them, close your eyes and tell me where your foot is. And they have no idea. And they don't realize that that is what is also contributing to the problem. Right? A lot of people, if you ask them, well, why can't you walk without a walker? Why can't you walk without a cane? People are going to be like, oh, it's because I'm weak. I have weak muscles. I don't work out. Very few people will tell you it's because I don't have proprioception. It's like nobody says that except for nerd PTs like me, right? But that is a huge part of the issue, and many people aren't even aware of it. Okay. So, in terms of graduating from a walker to a cane, again, is this something you're going to be able to do just by watching a fitness program online? No. I'm not gonna sit here and sugarcoat my program and tell you it's going to be able to make you walk without having a physical therapist. You need the services of a PT. Okay. What something like my fitness program can do is it can help you with that physical therapist get you to where you need to be. Okay. Again, especially if that PT does not have amputee experience. Okay. And if you're one of the lucky folks that has a physical therapist with amputee experience, like my girl Michelle there, she just came in just at the right time. Like my girl Michelle, okay, having a program like this that your PT can refer exercises and then you being able to go home and see in full color pictures or see the videos will help you stay on target with where you want to be. Okay. Here's the funny thing, guys. Like prior to having this program, I would literally draw out the exercises with really bad stick figures for my patients. And I would sit there and write with a Sharpie marker all the detailed instructions for these exercises. And my patients were good patients. They were good about trying it and good about doing it. It became so much easier when I was able to give my patient an account and say, here, watch these videos. Watch these videos when you go home. Those are the exercises we did in our session today. And it's just so much easier for them to understand, so much easier, and to keep up with the exercises, right? Okay. Okay, Robert says, John Cooper is my PT at HPRC in Columbus, Georgia. He is expanding to amputees and doing a great job. I would love to meet John Cooper, Robert. So can you please send me his information? Because again, I just want to start building this directory. I'm just going to do it. Nobody else is doing it. And for people, organizations that have the potential, they should be doing this. But nobody has a directory for PTs who work with amputees, and it's long overdue. The One-Legged Wonder, I love that handle. He says, in the UK, we get great help when we first become amputees. Then if we have to have a stump revision, we almost always have to just get on it by ourselves. And again, it's just like you have, correct me if I'm wrong, One-Legged Wonder, you have socialized medicine in the UK. So the good news is that when you finally get to your appointments and get access to the appointments, you get the help that you need. But like you said, then with revisions, you're kind of on your own. Here in the United States, we have third payer party, and I don't even understand our healthcare system sometimes, but it's getting access. That is our biggest problem, and our biggest challenge is finding the specialists. And then once you have the specialists, getting the approval for adequate number of visits. Yeah, that's a whole other. Thank you, John. Thank you for emailing me. Jerry Ann says, I go to you for my physical therapy on Wednesday nights, but you're, and I appreciate that, guys. I really do. But again, nothing would make me happier for you guys to find physical therapists nearby where you live, where you can get that help. Yeah. Michelle, you've missed a lot so far, girl. So you're going to have to stick around. You're just going to have to stick around. That's all I'm saying. Glenn made it. I hope I didn't miss my question. Glenn, if you sent me a question, darling, I did not receive it. Can you please post it in the comment section? Because I do not have a question here from you, Glenn. So put the question in there. Randall says, we made it home from dinner. Good. All right. Now we're cooking with grease here. All right, guys, let's continue. Okay, here's another question. I don't know if it's the same Cindy or a different Cindy, but this Cindy says, from North Carolina, and Starry Zero in my cup. Should my physical therapist be an expert in how my new Autobach leg with microprocessor knee works? It seems like I can't find anyone who is familiar with it. Michelle, I know Michelle, my girl Michelle, is sitting behind her computer screen or phone going, yeah, they need to know, because I just know Michelle and she's awesome. By the way, Michelle, can you throw up the name of your practice? She is an amazing, oh my gosh, amazing physical therapist, close to the Northeast. And she has her own private practice for amputee care, and she has an insurance-based practice and a cash-based practice. So I want Michelle, put the information up there for your practice, for your Instagram handle, for how people can make an appointment with you. Put all that stuff up there. And yes, girl, I'm putting you on the spot. Bill says, my wife was in medical billing for 33 years. No wonder she is so great. Yeah, guys, don't even get me started on that one. Yeah. Okay. So yes, your physical therapist should, in a perfect world, know how a microprocessor knee works. Okay. Knowing the basics. Are we ever going to know as much as a prosthetist? We shouldn't. Okay. And on occasion, it hasn't happened very often, but on occasion, I have met a prosthetist where I know a little bit more about how that MPK knee works more than they do. And that makes me a little bit nervous, but no. All joking aside, guys, prosthetist is always going to know, but the physical therapist needs to know how it works, right? If you're teaching someone how to drive the car, you need to know how to change the gears. You need to know how to shift. You need to know how to use the clutch. You need to know the basics. Okay. So, oh, Glenn, I just answered your question. You were the one who sent that question in. You're not labeled on my texting service. I need to go back and label it so I know it's coming from you. Yes, you were asking about the exercises for the sound leg, and I answered the question. Long and short, Glenn, all the exercises you do for your residual limb, you need to do for your sound limb. For you in particular, because I've seen you and I've worked with you, I want you doing squats. I want you doing lunges. I want you doing hip hinges to get you started. So yeah, get to it, my friend. And I know you have the book, so you can start looking it up in there. But yeah, when you have a chance, go back and listen to the whole spiel I gave on the sound limb. Okay, going back to Align. So Michelle the name of her practice is Align Rehabilitation. Girl, you got to give us more information than that. Yeah, got to give us more information than that, because I know there's going to be somebody on here who needs your help and is in your area, and I want them to go see you. Okay. So with regards to the microprocessor knee, yes, they need to understand what is at the base of the knee. And guys, I developed recently a CEU course, a continuing education course for physical therapists. It's a 15-hour, 2-day beast of a course. And 3 of those hours alone are spent on prosthetic devices and alignment. Okay. Everything a physical therapist needs to know and more. So yes, understanding how that knee works is going to help you teach your patient how to use it. Now, a caveat that I say to that is, when a physical therapist is working with an amputee, we are not teaching prosthetic gait. We are teaching human gait. And this is something that one of my colleagues, David Lawrence, said years ago, and that always just stuck with me. Okay. I'm not teaching someone how to walk with a prosthesis. I am teaching someone how to walk. Okay. So those mechanics are going to be the same. I am going to try to get my patient and facilitate them, okay, to ambulate as if they had 2 anatomical legs. Are they ever going to do that perfectly? Maybe not. But that is how I'm going to teach them. That is how the human brain works. Okay. And guys, a lot of clinicians get intimidated by microprocessor knees. I certainly was intimidated for many, many years until I had several prosthetists explain to me how these microprocessor knees work, how they're structured, what are the different features, and then how to get them to work while I'm training the patient. Okay. And this is also, once again, where the physical therapist needs to be in contact with the prosthetist. Okay. There's a certain part of the gait cycle. It's when you are getting ready to take your legs through the swing phase. Come here, Bobby. You haven't been on in a while, Bob. People miss you, I'm sure. Okay. So there's a part of the gait cycle where your foot is on the ground. And then there's a part of the gait cycle where your foot is swinging through the air. So stance phase, and swing phase. The part of stance phase, okay, right when your knee starts to bend, right there, especially for my above the knee amputees. That's the part of the gait cycle. It's just this little slip part of the gait cycle. That's where I really know if that microprocessor knee has been aligned properly and programmed properly on the app that they have. Okay. So that for me as a physical therapist, do I know all the nuts and bolts that are involved in the app? No. I'll be super honest with you. I don't, because there's just so much complexity there. But I do know when I have my hands on a patient's hips and I'm trying to get them to bend their knee, I can tell by the feel, okay, this isn't aligned properly, or this isn't programmed properly, because the patient should be able to bend their knee in this particular way. Okay, that's how a physical therapist thinks. So we do need to know about the knee, and we also need to know that that part can be adjusted. Okay, so especially to those of my physical therapists out there who are kind of beginners and they don't have as much knowledge, if you know human gait, which you do because you are a licensed physical therapist and you know how the human gait should look like, then you know at the different parts of the gait cycle when things are not cooperating properly. I hope this makes sense. Like, this is something, guys, especially in the past few years, when I've had the chance to really work with some of these O&P companies and really dig in and learn more about these prosthetic devices from the prosthetists that work with these companies, and having just a deeper level of understanding of this. I think it's kind of cool. Michelle says, I stink at PR. I know you stink at PR. I stink at PR as well. So that's why we got to push each other. Guys, seriously, if you are in the Maryland area, that area there where you've got Delaware and Maryland and all those other states close by, go see Michelle. Just go see Michelle. Even if you Google it and she's like a 3-hour drive from you, go take a day and go see her. Just do it. Just do it. She's worth the drive. And it's certainly a lot easier than driving down to Florida to come see me. So she's on Facebook and she's also on Instagram under Align Rehabilitation. She put her handles there. She does, guys. She really posts a lot of really wonderful videos of her patients. She is so much better at doing that than I am. So go ahead, follow her. All right. Jerry Ann says, I use your book every day and I'm a bilateral. If I didn't, and I'm a bilateral. And if I didn't, I would be super tight. Thank you. No, I'm very, very glad about that. Hey there, Teresa. All right, let's get another question here, guys. It is so, guys, the AC is going on in my house, but because it's Florida, I am not kidding. It is so warm in here. Sweating like a thief in church. All right. Marty asks, I am a through the knee amputee, also known as a knee disarticulation, since May, and I'm about to get my first check socket. Yay, golf clap. Well done. Well done. What should I expect, and should my expectations be low? Also, what should I expect in terms of being able to walk independently in terms of a time frame? Okay. So Marty, you're not going to like my answer because it's going to sound like a cop-out, but truly it's the best I can give you. Marty says, I have high expectations. I just don't want to be discouraged if I don't make it my goal of going back to work in the OR by October. Okay. I love this. I love that you have high expectations. So first of all, Marty, and these are questions that you can answer on your own. A lot when I'm looking at a person going, where are they going to be? Where can I take them with physical therapy? The first thing I do is I want to find out what they were doing prior to their amputation. Okay. Were they somebody who was very active and just unfortunately had a car accident that took their limb? In which case, since they didn't have any premorbid issues, they have a very good chance at getting back to independent walking. Were they somebody that perhaps they did have vascular disease and they did have a lot of issues, however, they were able to keep themselves mobile and walking independently prior to their amputation? Or are they somebody who was losing their mobility prior to their amputation because of illness, and they became very deconditioned as a result? In which case, in testing them, then I can kind of get an idea. But that kind of starts to set the scene for me to determine, okay, am I going to be able to get them walking without a cane or a walker? Okay. And then obviously hands-on. Again, this is where PT, we like to get handsy with our patients, right? So we get hands-on and we test our patients. We test the strength. We test to see what is going on. And then when I work with my patient in the parallel bars, guys, within 10 minutes of working with someone in the parallel bars, I can tell where they're going to be headed. Okay. I can tell where they'll be headed. Now, are there times where I don't know? Yeah, because I'm not God. Okay. I'm not God. I don't teach patients how to walk on water. That would be a really cool trick, though. Okay. There are times where I truly do not know if I will be able to get a patient walking without a cane or a walker. And I'm very honest. I'm very honest with my patients when they come in from day one. What I do tell them is, I know I can confidently get you to this point. So, whether this point is walking with a cane independently, walking with a walker independently, I let them know where I can get them, provided they do all the treatments, right? And they follow through with everything I tell them to do. And then what I say to them is, look, I can get you to this point, and when we get to that point, we're going to reassess and see where else we can take you. Okay. So, Marty, in your case, and again, this is the kind of information you need to give your physical therapist. As a knee disarticulation, we had a lovely, lovely chats about this a few weeks ago on the show. Knee disarticulations to me are really fun to work with. Okay. Yes, you have a knee that you have to learn how to use as well as a foot. However, you have such a long lever arm because your entire femur is intact that prosthetist is going to be able to really give you a nice, stable alignment. Okay. So, guys, just to give you a quick reminder, somebody who is a knee dysartic, it means that obviously the tibia and the fibula, these two bones were completely removed. However, the femur is completely intact. Okay. And it also means that the person can bear weight on the end of this bone. If you're an above the knee or if you're a below the knee amputee, you can't put any weight through the end of your bone. Okay. So when you're getting fit for a socket, you can't do that. Right. But as a knee disarticulation, you can put weight at the end of the bone, and that does give you an advantage. And then again, that long lever arm, okay? And because you have that nice long lever arm, that prosthetist can really secure your femur in a nice, stable alignment. And on top of that, the trim lines, where your socket ends, may not have to go so high. So you can get away with slightly lower trim lines, which is going to be a little more comfortable in the long run. Okay. Marty, I got to tell you, there are times where, I think knee disarticulations are only 2% of the population. I have to review my notes. I am so terrible at stats. 2% of the population. So it does not make up much of the amputee population. But there have been times where I've been in public, and this happens to me at like the Amputee National Convention where you have a big group of amputees. And if a knee disarticulation is wearing a pair of pants, I have to look really closely to see if they're a knee disartic or if they're a below the knee, because they can walk so beautifully. Okay. In many ways, sometimes when I'm working with a knee disarticulation amputee, I think of them sometimes in terms of as a below the knee, in terms of their potential. Okay. And this especially includes if I have any knee disartics that are looking to become runners. They can do amazing running. Okay. So, Marty, keep those expectations set high. Give this information to your physical therapist and then hold them to it. Okay. If your physical therapist is telling you you cannot do X, Y, or Z, they need to be able to explain it very well. They need to provide you with a very good explanation. Okay. And yes, I've had to do that with some of my patients where my patients like, I want to be able to do this and I want to be able to do that. And I'm like, right now that's not feasible because of this, and this. What you don't want to hear from a PT or a prosthetist or an MD is you can't do that because you're an amputee. Okay. That's the sound of somebody who doesn't have experience. Okay. So there's all of that. Marty, I hope some of this helps you. And I want you to come back and I want you to keep me posted on how it's going with physical therapy. Marianne says, I quit BT because the only time he ever touched me is when I fell. Oh, Lord have mercy. That makes me so sad. Marianne, I'm telling you guys, if there's anybody from Hanger listening, and I'm going to put y'all's feet to the fire. If there is anybody from Hanger listening, you guys need to invite me to one of your bilateral above the knee boot camps, your BACA boot camps. I am dying to go. And I don't know if you guys have PTs when you have your BACA boot camps, but I've never received an invitation and I want to go because I want to work with people like Marianne. So there you go. I just put it out there to Hanger. Let's see if they're listening or not. Oh, I'm going to get myself into trouble. This mouth of mine gets me into trouble. all day, all day. All right, let's see. And Marty, I do think so between now and October, let's see, we're in the middle, not even the middle of July. So you have all of August. It might be pushing it for October, Marty. But you're going to get yourself awful close. You'll get yourself awful close. And again, Marty, I really hope you have an experienced PT. And guys, and I mean this sincerely, if you guys are working with a physical therapist who does not have amputee experience, they're more than welcome to reach out to me. I've had PTs in the past that they've emailed me and they said, my patient told me to contact you. Is it okay if I ask you questions? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. So guys, if your physical therapist is open to that, they are more than welcome to reach out and contact me and ask me any questions about your case and how we can help. And I do mean that. So Robert says, John got my stump when I could walk. Then he kicked me in my butt and said, walk first by time, 15, 30 minutes an hour, then by distance. Good. Now I can spend the day walking. Awesome. I love to hear that. I love to hear a PT who's kicking someone's butt and making them walk. Kurt says, Cozy, you're doing amazing things for the lost community. Keep all the good work. Thank you so much, Kurt. I appreciate your support. Truly, truly. He says, preach. No one deserves lazy medical care. Let's see. Randall says, I heard that once or twice and prove them wrong every time. Good. Don't forget about SEBCM. I am terrible with acronyms. Bill, can you please let me know what that means? Kurt says, Marianne was great. Next year, girl, I got you. Oh, good. Earl says, I'll let Andrew know. So Kurt, you got to go to Baka boot camp? Oh, yeah. Again, Hanger does wonderful things. They need to include PTs more. That's all I'm saying. I'm putting it out there. I'm just going to put it out there. All right. I am going to get in trouble here. All right. Angela said, I do want to give a shout. Angela says, I'm about 2 weeks off of crutches now. Pretty happy seeing that I've been in a wheelchair for 4-ish years. Osteointegration definitely wasn't straightforward with me with 3 revisions due to infection, but it seems to be back on track now. So props to you, Angela. Thank you for sending me the video. You look amazing. You look fantastic. Let's see. Van Gregory says you did a great job at Empower Path. Thank you very much. I had a great time there. I don't see why not a Baka invite. Right? Anyways. All right, guys, I'm going to show you another picture that someone sent me. And again, they gave me permission to show this. So the person sent me a picture. It's a picture of a liner, the outer part of a liner. And they're saying, what happened here? So when I looked closely, I was like, is that foam I'm seeing? But what's happening is there's just a tear. There's a rip in the liner. And it's just got, it's got a run in it, for lack of a better word. So this just kind of reminded me of the days when we used to wear pantyhose and stockings and our nylons and as ladies, and then you accidentally catch your fingernail in it and it would just run, right? It would have a tiny little hole, and then if you breathe a little too hard on it, it would run. And that's honestly what it looks like to me. So I think that's kind of what happened there. So I'm guessing that it just got caught on something that you didn't realize, perhaps when you were cleaning it, or it brushed up against something, that it got snagged on something. That's kind of what that looks like. If anybody here recognizes that particular situation and has an idea as to what caused that. Oh, this is good coffee. I would love to know, but that's kind of what it looks like. It looks like a snag. I don't think I've ever seen that before in person, but these liners get beat up a lot, especially for those of you who are super active. I don't think that would necessarily compromise the integrity. I would take it back to the prosthetist and just see if they can kind of put a little patch on it to prevent that from getting into the liner part of it itself. But yeah, it looks like a snag. Michael says, paying for a premium healthcare plan to qualify for a microchip knee from microprocessor knee. Yeah. Not a so everybody can move. Okay. Thank you, Bill. I can't keep up with all the acronyms here. Okay. There was one. Okay, so here's an interesting thing. On Facebook, I kind of belong to several kind of, support groups, and one of them is kind of an O&P chat, where a lot of prosthetists and will ask questions about, their practices and Medicare and billing and insurance and all that kind of fun stuff. And it was interesting. There was one comment that was posted, and I think I accidentally misunderstood what they were asking, but I saw the word PT, and I'm like, "Ooh, let me read this and see if I can chime in." Lauren, I don't know if you're listening, but hopefully, if you're listening, you can. Uh, I'd love to hear you weigh in on this. So, they were talking about how I guess one prosthetist was trying to submit for a piece of equipment, and the doctor had written the order in a way that was kind of confusing. They were saying patient is non ambulatory, but should wear something for physical therapy, like a walking device for physical therapy. And it's just like, okay, right? So it's just like, okay, and this happens a lot, guys. Sometimes MDs will write on the script, patient is non ambulatory, and they may not necessarily consult the physical therapist first. And this happened a lot when I worked in the hospital setting, sometimes also in outpatient setting. And I'm just sitting there kind of chuckling to myself, going, well, if the patient's non ambulatory, then why are you giving them a walking device? And then what happens is if the insurance reads this, the insurance may say, well, if the doctor says the patient's non-ambulatory, we're not going to give them the walking device, and mayhem ensues. And then if the prosthetist is trying to get this device for the individual, so first and foremost, the PT and the prosthetist should be talking. Those two go together like peanut butter and jelly. And I find that when a prosthetist calls the PT or vice versa, there's so much confusion that can be avoided, right? Because even to this day, I find that some of the prosthetists that I've worked with for many years, good, wonderful people, they're surprised to know of some of the things that I can do for their patients, or some of the things that I know to comment on in patient notes. So again, if there's a discrepancy there, then the prosthetist and the PT need to communicate to make sure that the notes coordinate properly. So when it comes to anything walking, guys, that's what the PT needs to determine. I'm sorry. All due respect to the doctors, they're not going to be the ones who can determine what a patient can do from a walking standpoint. Okay, unless it's something like a spinal cord injury where the doctor is reviewing the MRIs, nerve conduction studies, and we're talking about the physical potential there of what is available for the person to walk. But ultimately, that is what the physical therapist is going to assess. And we're the ones, if there's anybody making a prediction, we're the ones that are going to carry the weight of that conversation. Okay, more so than the prosthetist, more so than the surgeon. Okay, so to say a patient is non-ambulatory, I respectfully would say that the MD needs to consult with the physical therapist before making that declaration. And if the prosthetist is in the middle right now and they're catching this and trying to, fix this, then yes, speaking with the physical therapist and having the physical therapist write their assessment, their recommendations, and then the goals, because that was another question that the prosthetist was asking. Is the physical therapist able to write goals for walking? Absolutely yes. Okay. We write what are called long-term goals, meaning what do we expect the patient to be able to do in about 3 months? And then we have to write short-term goals. Okay. So a long-term goal might be something like patient will be able to walk 500 feet independently without an assistive device. Okay, but the short-term goal will be patient can walk with a walker 150 feet, and showing the steps on how we are going to get the patient walking independently with a plan of care. Okay, so this is all information that a physical therapist will be putting into the record. And in which case, I would say PT and prosthetist are on the same page. It then makes it easier for the MD, for the surgeon, to look at the full picture and then put his or her recommendations to send off to the insurance. And most MDs, especially if they're working with physical therapists, and that's what they will do. And they'll look at our notes and they'll make their medical recommendations. And then when it comes to functional mobility and walking and gross motor function, relying upon the PT's recommendations. Okay, so I know I'm kind of getting into the weeds of the healthcare and behind the scenes part of it, but there's a lot of miscommunication that can happen. And I've even had some patients that they come to me and they say, "Hey, my doc wrote this on my prescription. They said I'm non-ambulatory, or they say I can't walk, but they're sending me to PT for gait training. What's going on here? Okay, so you got to kind of straighten out some of that verbiage there. All right. Ooh, that's a good idea, Chuck. He says, would the clear fingernail polish trick work to stop the run in the liner? Man, we're going old school there, Chuck. I used to use fingernail polish and clear fingernail and also hairspray. Remember hairspray? You like put hairspray and you would just pray that you could get through your church Sunday mass service without it running up even more. I don't know. I don't know, Chuck. The liner material, even though it looks like the weave of a nylon stocking, but it's pretty thick. The thing is, it's so thick that you could potentially stitch it together. I don't know. I'd be curious if there's any of my prosthetists on board and how they would solve this. I solve this PT mom sewist style where I would probably just put stitches into it. But that's probably why I'm not a prosthetist. Okay. Ben Gregory says, I have that in one of my liners, but it came from me trying to climb a wall with just my liner and no legs. Yeah, that's a surefire way to scratch that up. And it doesn't surprise me one bit with you, Ben Gregory. Robert says, sorry for the joke, but that liner looks like they bent over too far. Looks like it split its britches, didn't it? All right, here we go. Michael says, I got an MRI today. Among many other things, they found a lumbar levocurvature apex at L3-4, sagittal alignment is anatomic. Could this have been caused by my new prosthetic about 3.5 months ago? I started having tight left shoulder neck pain around 2 months ago when I'm wearing it. Okay, that's a lot right there. So, Michael, again, I know this sounds like a cop-out answer, but I'm going to do the best I can without having you right in front of me. It's really hard, even though you provided some very nice descriptions with the MRI. Long and short of it, can your prosthesis be causing issues with your spine? Yeah, in some cases it can. But what I usually find, is the case is it's a multifactorial. So 80%. Last statistic I check, and again, guys, I stink at stats, but the rough number is about 80% of amputees within 5 years of their amputation will experience back pain. What I find that's normally due to is gait deviations. So some people call them limps, some people call it walking funny, but any deviation from the normal gait cycle is going to throw the rest of your body off in some way. So when you deviate and you walk in a different walking pattern that is not normal, other parts of your body have to compensate. Those compensations can then lead to pain. Hip pain, knee pain, back pain, neck pain. Sometimes it goes up the chain pretty high. So can you get spinal issues from prosthetic use? Yeah. When you say you started using it about 3.5 months ago and you're seeing these kind of anatomical changes at a level of an MRI like that, I'm a little hesitant. It could be that this is something you had prior and now it's just being exacerbated by the use of your prosthesis. And it's kind of like, well, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Did you have issues with your skeletal alignment that were then aggravated by the use of a prosthesis because you're throwing off the way you were normally walking? Or did the prosthesis causes? What sometimes happens, Michael, and I've had this happen in the past, some people, for example, prior to their amputation, they had a leg length discrepancy. So they perhaps had one leg that was maybe a 1/2 inch to 1 inch shorter than the other leg. And then when they got their prosthesis, their prosthetist set them evenly, right? Let me show you what that looks like. So let's just say for your entire life, this side was a little bit higher because maybe you had a longer leg on that side. And then after amputation, your prosthetist attempts to set you back to normal. Well, if you've been your whole life like this, that means your spine started to develop a curve to compensate. That happens a lot. Right? And a lot of people in our population have this. If you look at people's spines over the years, over the decades, we all develop little funky little curves that compensate for how we do our daily activities. right? So then if a prosthetist comes in and tries to set you normally, right? They try to force you back to being in a normal alignment because maybe they didn't know about your leg length discrepancy. Maybe you didn't even know about your leg length discrepancy. Then you can see where after years, your body compensating and now it's trying to adjust to that new normal, right? So again, which one came first, the chicken or the egg, Michael? So the first thing you need to do, and this is again super important, have a physical therapist give you an examination with your prosthetist with them. Okay. And then again, looking at your MRIs, saying, okay, these curvatures, these things that we're seeing here, is this something that was potentially present before the amputation? And now, okay, in trying to put him into a normal alignment, it's causing problems. Okay. Other thing to go back to, Michael, maybe you did not have any kind of these anatomical misalignments prior to amputation, but perhaps you've been walking with a gait deviation. Okay. So again, I am not a back pain specialist. It is not my jam. That is not what I wanted to specialize in. But when my patients come to me with back pain, I work on their gait pattern and I'm able to help resolve or at least diminish a lot of the back pain symptoms. And then usually I'll send them to a back pain specialist to finish that kind of a program, to finish core strengthening, to finish any tightness that's going on in the hips that can then send pain up the spine. Okay. You mentioned something about having tight left shoulder neck pain around 2 months ago when you were wearing it. Okay. So let's just say, and I'm going to exaggerate a little bit, Michael, let's just say you perhaps did not receive the right training for physical therapy, gait training with your prosthesis when you first got it. So maybe you were kind of figuring out how to walk on your own. And because of that, you may have been holding a shoulder up a little bit. And this happens a lot with my patients when they're trying to walk. They get real tight in the shoulders and they don't even realize it until I point it out to them. Okay. If nobody showed you how to walk using arm swing, how to use trunk rotation, okay, you can see where this is the posture many people will develop, okay, when they're trying to learn to walk with a prosthesis. And you can see where doing this for during the daytime hours when you're trying to move around, how that can really start to send shockwaves down your spine. Okay. So, Michael, there's a lot of things where this could be coming from and finding the root cause. Again, finding the root cause. I'm playing Monday morning quarterback. I think there may have been something maybe prior to you using a prosthesis, that maybe there was something in your alignment already, your skeletal alignment. I don't know. But again, a good physical therapist, and I would actually, in your case, Michael, not just a physical therapist who works with amputees, but a back pain specialist. I think that would be really beneficial for you to have them take a look at your spine, look at your MRI, and then look at your alignment with your prosthetist and just kind of puzzle out where it's all coming from. So good, Marianne. I am so glad you got to work with Kurt because he is an awesome physical therapist. Doc should say PAG, PAG. I don't get it. I don't get that. Warranty, Bill. Let's see. Steve says, to look like that is bad, but for wear in my new few months is starting to just by wearing it. Steve, can you clarify? I'm not sure if I understand your statement. Oh, Charles is saying doc should say patient is only ambulatory with a walker. Well, again, and even then, Charles, they really shouldn't say that. What a doctor should say is refer to physical therapy notes for update on patient ambulatory status. Or sometimes a doctor would ask me and say, hey, can you give me like a 2-sentence summary on how the patient is doing for their walking and put it into PT terminology? And I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to say, look, this is how we describe how a patient is doing and where they have the potential to go to. So Michael, it sounds like they found a few other things. Are these things that I can work on with my physical therapist? Yeah, I just got it done today and scared there's going to be a lot of bad news when I see my surgeon for follow-up for a year. This was okay. Okay, so got it, Michael. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you got some things going on right there. For sure, see what the neurologist has to say based on the findings of the MRI. And again, Michael, yes, there is going to be something that you can do with your physical therapist. Again, I would highly recommend an amputee physical therapist. And if you're not able to get in touch with an amputee specialist, go find one in your area that specializes in back and spine, back pain. And there's a whole bunch of them. A whole bunch of them. There's a lot of folks that specialize in that. Ask your surgeon if they have someone they would recommend. Okay. But again, someone who's a back pain specialist, they are really good at tracking down, like, where is this coming from? Okay. And I'd love to know how you're doing. Let's see, lost my left leg above the knee and use of my left arm due to a brachial plexus injury in a motorcycle accident. Yep, I've had those patients too. Been in a wheelchair ever since, kept falling hard whenever I tried to walk, felt like I was putting my life in danger with walking. I go step and leg isn't there, fall immediately and fast. And then again, Michael, I actually, I'm trying to think, one of my first patients I had when I opened up my private practice here in Tampa, he was exactly that. He was a young man who was an above the knee amputee, and he also lost his arm. Or no, I'm sorry, he didn't lose his arm. He had a brachial plexus injury in the same arm. And he was running. He was running. He was quite the daredevil. But yes, I mean, ironically enough, and a lot of people don't get this, his biggest impairment was not the above the knee amputation. It was the brachial plexus injury on the arm. So, I can totally see where this will impact in your terms of your mobility. But Michael, again, get thee to a physical therapist. Okay. And again, if you don't have an amputee specialist, another person I would look to, knowing about your brachial plexus injury, I would go to a neuro specialist PT. We have all sorts of specialties in physical therapy, guys. As you can tell, there's like so many different specialties, which can be a wonderful thing, but it can also be like, okay. But finding someone, and then when you speak to the therapist, just ask them flat out, do you have experience working with brachial plexus injuries? Okay. It could be that they say yes, it could be that they say no. And it's okay to ask these questions, guys, before you even make the appointment with the physical therapist. Okay. So again, for yourself, Michael, is walking impossible? I wouldn't say, I don't think so, but you definitely need a skilled physical therapist to work with you, to work with your prosthetist, and to work with your doctor, to work together. Okay. And I do wish you the best of luck with that. And please keep checking back in. Let's see. Tom says, my right leg was a half an inch shorter due to a previous leg break before my amputation. Totally agree with you on this one. Yeah. And guys, I've had it happen to me before where it was actually my first below the knee patient I ever had as an amputee. And I couldn't get him off the cane. And my senior PT who was training me, we were just like, what's going on? And then he casually mentioned, oh yeah, before my amputation, I was like an inch shorter on one side. And we're just like, and again, I was a young PT. I just didn't know how to kind of think outside the box. And I called the prosthetist who was down the hallway, great guy named Steve. And I said, Steve, this is going to sound like a really weird request, but can you set him to be half an inch shorter on his amputated side? And he just looked at me like, are you insane? And I go, that's what this guy was before his amputation. And he was already in his 50s. So, his spine had already accommodated and his pelvis had already accommodated. And he did. And lo and behold, he's able to let go of that cane and start walking. I mean, that's like an outlier case, guys. That doesn't happen all the time. That's like once in every 23 years type thing that happened. But it happened. It happened. So whenever I'm kind of stuck on something with a patient and I might ask the patient, what was your alignment like before your amputation? Did you have a leg length discrepancy that you knew about? I know it sounds weird. Robert says, I definitely felt my spine when I started working shift to my new normal. Strength training did help a lot. Yeah. Yeah. Will I be at the FAOP conference in Orlando at the end of this month? Unfortunately not, Brian. The FAOP, guys, is the Florida American Orthotics and Prosthetics Association. I think they were the state branch, the Florida branch of the AOPA, the Orthotics and Prosthetics Association, the professional organization for prosthetists. I was very honored to be their keynote speaker last year. was it last year or 2 years ago? Oh my gosh, I can't remember. And they invited me to come back, but unfortunately, I will be out of town on summer vacation. It always falls, and the same thing with like the Amputee Coalition National Conference. It always falls in the last week of summer. And I've got 4 kids, so y'all can imagine my last week of summer, I'm going nuts trying to get my kids ready for school. But no, Brian, unfortunately, I will be out of town with family during that time. But I had a really great time. I had a really fun time at that conference. Robert says, I did feel my spine when I started walking as it shifted to my new normal. Strength training did help a lot. Steve says, I had my first 2 or 3 years. He started to look like that until I got another one, and it got slightly where I've had not that one quite a year. Okay. Oh, the liners. You're referring to the liners. Sorry, Steve. I was just like, what is he referring to? I don't understand what he's saying. Yeah, so it's just a wear and tear on the liner. See, Randall says, I've been trying to get an MP knee. The insurance company has denied me based on the poor documentation. Ugh. I'm picking up a Proteor Quattro that is 2 years old this Friday. Looking forward to improved mobility. Very excited. I've heard nothing but great things about the Proteor Quattro. Michael says, you just gave me an idea that makes total sense. Okay. I'm glad I gave you an idea. I hope you know what it is. Okay, guys. Holy smokes. Got through everything. All right, guys, here is my shameless ask for the evening. If you have not already done so, please sign up for my texting service. Here are the instructions. You text COSI Talks, all one word, all caps to that number. Then whenever I go live, guys, I can send you the links and you don't have to go hunting for it. And you don't even have to think about the fact that it's going to be Wednesday night and 8:30 p.m. You'll just get a text message and you'll remember to jump on the show. And then more importantly, you can text me your questions. So this is becoming my favorite way to communicate with all of you through text messaging service. Socket question. Oh, Kim, yes, I'm so sorry, darling. Thank you for reminding me. Okay. When it comes to your case, you mentioned that you had lymph nodes removed because of cancer, which can then lead to lymphedema. Okay. Right. So the lymph nodes in our, the basic anatomy lesson is lymph nodes is kind of like the garbage truck of our circulation system. It takes all the garbage in our blood and it cleans it out. So the lymph nodes is kind of like the train station. We have lymph nodes under our armpits. We have lymph nodes in our groin area. And that's where all the garbage collects and it's pumped out, right? So when you have lymph nodes removed, a lot of times due to cancer, okay, then sometimes that garbage gets stuck and it causes edema. It causes a backup in the circulatory system. And the person gets what's called lymphedema, which is pretty massive amounts of swelling. It can be mild, it can be moderate, it can be severe. So as an amputee, this can be especially impacting you because obviously with your socket fit, even those of you who don't have lymphedema, you're going to experience volume changes. So in terms of a flexible socket, okay, the best option I can offer you is a RevoFit adjustable socket. Okay. So, most sockets nowadays are going to have this nice little flexible inner socket. Some people call it a liner. It's not really a liner. It's like a flexible inner socket. So sockets should have this, but then also the adjustability. Okay. And again, Kim, I hope that you have a lymphedema specialist that you're working with. Again, it's another one of the many specialties in physical therapy. But folks with lymphedema for sure need to have a physical therapist who has a lymphedema certification to help you through with this. And they can also work with your prosthetist on this, Kim. But I do like the adjustability that RevoFit can do with this. It's a kit that your prosthetist will get, and then they can build adjustability into the socket. So this is an older model. Okay. But again, you can see they can do it by putting a gap here and then this tightens. Okay. They can also put in panels like this. Okay. And then you twist the reel and it tightens up. I really loosened that one up a lot. Okay. Also, they have a way you can hinge the socket, so it makes it easier for you to get in, especially if you're swollen that day. And then the cool thing is they can put that adjustability in different parts of the socket, okay? So if you need a little bit more compression in one area of the socket compared to others. So Kim, you understand the massage therapy and the PT, and this is going to be a lifelong thing. This is something that you have to constant. I know I don't have to tell you this, but you have to be on it constantly. And again, just always have that physical therapist in your Rolodex in case you have an exacerbation. But they can also help communicate to the prosthetist where is a good place to put compression versus not a good place to put compression in your socket. Okay. So it would be good to put your physical therapist in touch with your prosthetist to help collaborate for something like this. Okay. All right, guys, I am beyond talked out this evening. I am going to take a nice cool shower because it is hot in Florida and it's hot here. But guys, as always, I had a wonderful time this evening. Thank you for letting me be a part of your lives this evening. Please, if you're not already doing so, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and now TikTok. I'm on TikTok. Woohoo, I'm fancy like that. All right, guys, I will see you next week, same bat time.